Trump's tantrum incoming, America, soon to be the land of fewer shiny German automobiles. Those BMWs, Mercedes, Audis might be saying Auf Wiedersehen to a significant portion of their US market presence. Why this sudden, dramatic uncoupling? Well, it seems a familiar face is back in the director's chair of global trade. That's right, folks. Former president, now president again, Donald J. Trump, has decided that what the American economy needs is another round of his favorite game, Tariff Twister. He's practically drop-kicking them with import duties. German automakers, who generally prefer their drama to be confined to the Nürburgring, are, to put it mildly, experiencing a touch of Verärgerung. They've spent decades building their brands and factories, and now this. So, the big question is, are these automotive titans genuinely pulling up stakes and leaving America in the dust? Or is this an elaborate, high-stakes game of economic chicken? So grab your popcorn, find a comfortable seat, because this particular international incident is only just warming up its tires. Let's delve into the mechanics of this automotive earthquake. It all kicked off in early April 2025. President Trump unleashed a hefty 25% tariff on automotive imports into the United States. Imagine buying a lovely German saloon and then, surprise, the government wants an extra quarter of its value as a welcome to America gift. It's quite the statement, designed to make everyone sit up and pay attention, especially in Stuttgart and Munich. This 25% beast was designed to stand alone, proud and imposing, a clear message that this was a targeted measure. Back in late 2024 and early 2025, as president-elect, Trump was already limbering up his tariff muscles. He'd been floating ideas of a blanket tariff on all goods entering the US, and more specifically, had announced a 10% tariff on Chinese products and a punchy 25% on goods from Canada and Mexico. EU officials were likely holding emergency espresso meetings, wondering when the automotive sector would get its own special mention in the tariff saga. Well, April 2025 provided that answer in no uncertain terms. The message was crystal clear. America first was the mantra. And if you wanted to sell your beautifully engineered European cars in the US, it was going to cost you. So what happens when a 25% tariff slams into the hull of your biggest export market? If you're a titan of the German automotive industry, you start to see a rather alarming amount of red ink on your spreadsheets. The impact wasn't a slow burn, it was an immediate, sharp intake of breath across boardrooms in Germany. Stellantis performed a full-scale tactical retreat, withdrawing their entire full-year 2025 financial guidance. Their first-quarter net revenues for 2025 plummeted by 14% year-over-year to 35.8 billion euros. Mercedes-Benz, synonymous with German engineering prowess and luxury, scrapped their 2025 earnings guidance. Their first-quarter profit figures showed a sharp decline, citing volatility over tariffs as a key culprit. Considering Mercedes employs over 11,000 people in the United States, these weren't just abstract numbers, they represented real-world anxieties about jobs and investment. Volkswagen posted a staggering 37% decline in first-quarter 2025 operating profit. This was particularly telling because prior to these new tariff announcements, over 90% of Volkswagen's US market vehicles were already produced in North America. Clearly, the new regime was biting hard regardless. The financial discomfort wasn't confined to just the largest German manufacturers. This tariff-induced malaise spread further. Volvo Cars, the Swedish brand known for its safety and Scandinavian cool, also found itself in the tariff crosshairs. They ditched their financial guidance not only for 2025 but also for 2026. Volvo announced tangible and rather painful cost-cutting measures. We're talking about a significant sum, 18 billion Swedish kroner, roughly $1.87 billion. These plans included reductions in investment and redundancies. It underscores the very human cost that can ripple out from these high-level trade disputes. Porsche, the manufacturer of dreams for many driving enthusiasts, couldn't out-accelerate the impact of these tariffs. The company was forced to trim its sales and profit margin forecasts for 2025. Their anticipated sales revenue was revised downwards from a range of 39 to 40 billion euros to a more modest 37 to 38 billion euros. The German auto industry was clearly in for a rough ride. Section 5. Preemptive panic and production pivots. German car manufacturers are renowned for their meticulous planning and engineering, and that extends to their business strategies. Seeing the ominous clouds of Trump's tariff intentions forming, they engaged in a rather clever maneuver, stockpiling exports to the United States in the early part of 2025. It was a race against the clock, a preemptive strike to get as much product onto American soil as possible before the new duties hit. This led to a peculiar short-term surge in production. Imagine German factories, usually running with clockwork precision, suddenly kicking into overdrive, churning out cars destined for the US market. However, stockpiling is, by its very nature, a temporary solution. What about the long-term strategy? Some manufacturers are contemplating a more fundamental shift, building factories in their backyard. Audi, for example, is reportedly exploring the feasibility of establishing a joint Audi-Porsche manufacturing plant within the United States. This potential shift towards US-based production aligns with some of President Trump's earlier pronouncements. One might wonder if this current scenario was an unintended consequence or perhaps part of a more calculated, albeit disruptive, grand plan. Section 6. Not just a German problem, Ford feels the tariff tremors too. Tariff bombshells can cause what the military calls friendly fire. Consider Ford Motor Company, as American as apple pie and baseball. They had to suspend their annual financial guidance. The reason? A $1.5 billion impact from tariffs. An American giant in Dearborn, Michigan, feeling the pinch. Due to Trump's tariffs, the cost of imported car components rose. These trade policies are like wielding a sledgehammer in a room of delicate machinery. Shockwaves travel, affecting the global economic system. Protectionism can harm domestic industries as much as foreign ones. The US auto industry is not insulated from these effects. It's a tangled web. Pulling one strand can cause the whole thing to shudder. Section 7. The Sticker Shock Symphony. What this means for your wallet. Let's shift gears and talk about what all this high-level economic maneuvering actually means for the average person in America who might be thinking about buying a new car. The forecast from most experts is pretty consistent. Prepare for a potential case of sticker shock at your local dealership. If it suddenly costs significantly more to import a vehicle into the country, or if the components needed to build a car domestically become more expensive due to tariffs on raw materials or parts, then those additional costs are typically passed along the chain until they land squarely on the final price tag you see. And what generally happens when the prices of desirable goods like new cars start to climb? Well, demand often takes a hit. For the American car buyer, the scenario could mean less choice, higher prices, and a generally more challenging market. It's hardly the recipe for a consumer paradise, is it? Section 8. Expert whispers and future detours for Deutschland's drivers. Seasoned economic experts are also chiming in, and their assessments for Germany's automotive-driven economy are far from rosy. Clemens Fuest, the respected president of Germany's influential IFO economic think tank, stated that higher U.S. levies on automobile imports would place a significant and unwelcome burden on the German economy as a whole. This isn't just about car companies, it's about national economic health. In 2024 alone, Germany exported approximately 3.4 million passenger vehicles, and the U.S. stood as its largest single market. These exports to America were valued at a colossal 23 billion euros, around $24.2 billion. When such a vital trade artery is constricted by tariffs, the entire economic body feels the strain. The advice from many industry analysts and economists centers on diversification. The core message is to avoid placing all their strategic eggs in the American basket, especially when that basket is being vigorously shaken. This means actively seeking to increase investment and market share in other regions, particularly in Asia, where many economies are still exhibiting strong growth potential. The logic is straightforward. If you manufacture vehicles within the United States, specifically for the American market, you can effectively sidestep those hefty import tariffs. Section 9. The Unpredictable Road Ahead, Trade Wars and Tightropes. President Trump's approach to international trade is marked by unpredictability. Global corporations find this constant state of flux challenging for making investment decisions. Amidst the turbulence, there have been occasional glimmers of flexibility. A provisional trade agreement was reached with the United Kingdom. This deal secured a 10% tariff reduction on 100,000 British cars exported to the US. It also promised duty-free exports for Rolls-Royce aerospace parts, pending US Congress approval. European car makers face challenges beyond new US tariffs. They were already grappling with significant headwinds. High production costs in Europe make it harder to compete globally. German auto giants face a perfect storm of trade tensions, technological transitions, and fierce competition.